The champagne glass shattered against marble before anyone could toast. Cashin Whitmore stood frozen on the grand staircase of the Grandview estate, his engagement ring still warm in his pocket, staring at the woman who'd just stepped through his doorway. The woman he'd destroyed 3 years ago. The woman who was supposed to be broken, invisible, erased. Except Valentina Corleone wasn't broken. She stood in the center of his engagement party, wearing a crimson dress that cost more than his car, diamonds glittering at her throat like stars he could never afford to give her. Her dark hair cascaded in waves over bare shoulders, and her eyes, those eyes that once begged him to believe in her, now held the cold calculation of someone who'd won a war he didn't know they were fighting. But it wasn't Valentina that made 200 guests fall silent. It was the 3 children holding her hands. 2 girls, 1 boy, identical faces, maybe 4 years old, their skin a perfect blend of caramel and cream, their curls bouncing as they looked around the ballroom with wide, curious eyes. Triplets. "Hello, Cashin," Valentina said, her voice cutting through the silence like a blade wrapped in silk. "Lovely party. I hope you don't mind that we're a bit early." She smiled, and it was the smile of a woman who'd learned to weaponize her beauty. The children wanted to see their new house. The words hit him like a freight train. Their new house. "Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you're here for this incredible story of betrayal, redemption, and justice served ice cold. Before we dive deeper into Valentina's shocking return, tell me, where are you watching from right now? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button because this story is going to take you on an emotional roller coaster you won't want to miss. Trust me, what happens next will leave you speechless. Now let's rewind. Let me tell you how we got here. 3 years ago, Cashin Whitmore had thrown Valentina out of his life with the kind of cruelty that only comes from a man who mistakes power for strength. They'd been married for 5 years. 5 years of doctor's appointments, fertility treatments, and tests that always came back the same. Unexplained infertility. 5 years of his mother's pointed remarks at family dinners. 5 years of watching Cashin's jaw tighten every time someone asked when they'd start a family. The divorce papers arrived on their anniversary. He hadn't even had the decency to tell her in private. No, Cashin Whitmore, heir to the Whitmore pharmaceutical empire, darling of high society, man who believed his DNA was too precious to waste, had held a press conference. After 5 years of marriage, he'd said to a room full of reporters, cameras flashing like lightning, "I've made the difficult decision to end my marriage to Valentina. A man in my position needs an heir. My wife," and here he'd paused for dramatic effect, "is barren. I cannot, in good conscience, allow my family legacy to die because of one woman's inadequacy." The video had gone viral within hours. Valentina had watched it from their bedroom. His bedroom now, he'd reminded her. On her phone, her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold the device. The comments flooded in. Gold digger got what she deserved. Poor man, trapped with a defective wife. She probably knew all along and tricked him. No one asked if Cashin had been tested. No one questioned why, if bloodline mattered so much, he'd married a woman from New Money. The daughter of a successful restaurateur, not the society princess his mother had wanted. No one cared that Valentina had given up her dreams of opening an art gallery to support his career, hosting dinners for his business partners, smiling through his mother's subtle cruelties. She was barren. That was all that mattered. Cashin had given her 1 week to leave. 1 week to pack 5 years of her life into suitcases and disappear from the city like a shameful secret. She left with nothing but her clothes and her dignity hanging by a thread. And now, 3 years later, she was back. Cashin's fiancée, Amber Chin, 24, blonde, and currently wearing a white dress that cost more than Valentina's last year of marriage, let out a sound somewhere between a gasp and a whimper. "Cashin." Her voice was small, confused. "Who is this?" "His ex-wife," Valentina answered before he could. She tilted her head, studying Amber with the detached interest of someone examining a painting they'd never buy. "The Barren one. I'm sure he's mentioned me." She knelt down, adjusting the collar of her son's tiny suit. "Haven't you, darling?" The little boy grinned up at her, gap-toothed and perfect. "Mama, is this really our house?" "Yes, sweetheart. This is our house." "That's impossible." Cashin finally found his voice, though it came out strangled. He descended the stairs, each step deliberate, his hand gripping the railing like it was the only thing keeping him upright. This is my house, the Grandview Estate. I've been trying to buy it for 3 years. And I bought it 6 months ago. Valentina straightened, pulling a folded document from her clutch. Red leather, Hermes, another detail that screamed wealth he didn't know she had. Would you like to see the deed? It's all legal. My lawyers made sure of that. The room erupted in whispers. Cashin's mother, Constance Whitmore, pushed through the crowd, her face the color of spoiled milk. This is outrageous. Security. Remove this woman and her children immediately. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Valentina's smile sharpened. Because as of 9 a.m. this morning, I'm the legal owner of this property. Which means everyone here, she gestured around the ballroom, is currently trespassing. But don't worry, I'm not going to ruin your son's engagement party. Her eyes locked on Cashin's. I just wanted to deliver the eviction notice personally. You have 30 days to vacate. This is insane. Amber's voice rose to a shriek. Cashin, do something. But Cashin couldn't move, couldn't breathe, because he was staring at the triplets, really looking at them for the first time. The boy had his nose. One of the girls had his grandmother's distinctive widow's peak. The other had his eyes, that specific shade of gray-green that ran in the Whitmore family for generations. No, he whispered. No, that's not possible. You couldn't, the doctors said. The doctors said we had unexplained infertility, Valentina corrected softly. They never said it was me. She let that sink in, watched the color drain from his face as understanding dawned. But you never got tested, did you, Cashin? You just assumed. Because men like you always assume. The silence that followed was deafening. Then Valentina smiled, and it was the cruelest kindness he'd ever seen. Enjoy your party. We'll be upstairs choosing bedrooms. She turned, her children following like ducklings, and walked toward the grand staircase. Her grand staircase. Leaving Cashin Whitmore standing in the ruins of everything he thought he knew. Behind her, chaos erupted. Guests pulled out phones. Amber was crying. Constance was screaming about lawyers. But Valentina didn't look back. She'd spent 3 years planning this moment. And it was even sweeter than she'd imagined. Valentina's hands trembled as she closed the master bedroom door behind her, shutting out the chaos below. The triplets immediately scattered. Luna diving onto the enormous 4-poster bed, Phoenix examining the crystal chandelier with scientific curiosity, and Stella pressing her nose against the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the garden. Mama, this room is bigger than our whole apartment. Luna squealed, bouncing on the mattress. Valentina sank into the velvet armchair by the fireplace, pressing her fingers to her temples. The adrenaline was fading, replaced by the familiar weight of 3 years' worth of secrets. She wasn't supposed to be this woman, the one who walked into her ex-husband's engagement party with designer armor and a nuclear bomb of revelations. 3 years ago, she'd been someone else entirely. Someone softer. Someone who believed love could survive anything. Someone who'd been so wrong. The night Cashin threw her out, Valentina had driven until her hands cramped around the steering wheel. She'd ended up at her father's restaurant in the suburbs, Antonio's, the little Italian place where she'd grown up sketching on napkins between helping with dinner service. Her father, Antonio Corleone, had taken one look at his daughter's swollen eyes and said nothing. He'd simply made her favorite pasta, poured her wine, and waited. I failed, she'd whispered, pushing food around her plate. 5 years, Papa. 5 years of trying to be enough for him, and I failed. You didn't fail. He did. Antonio's voice had been gentle but firm. A man who breaks his wife in public is not a man. He's a coward hiding in expensive suits. But what if he's right? What if I am? Don't. Her father's hand covered hers. Don't you dare say it. Your worth isn't measured by what your body can or cannot do. It's measured by your heart, your strength, your character. And those, Bambina, are limitless. Valentina had stayed with her father for 2 weeks, hiding from the world, ignoring the hundreds of messages and emails that ranged from sympathetic to vicious. The story of her barrenness had become tabloid gold. Proof that karma existed, that gold diggers got what they deserved, that women who married above their station would always be exposed. She'd been broken, shattered into so many pieces, she wasn't sure she could ever be whole again. Then she'd missed her period. Mama! Stella tugged on Valentina's sleeve, pulling her back to the present. You have your scary thinking face. Valentina blinked, forcing a smile. Just remembering, sweetie. Remembering the bad man downstairs? Phoenix climbed into her lap, his small face serious. The one who looks like us? Her heart clenched. The children knew bits and pieces, that they had a father who hadn't wanted them, who'd hurt their mother before they were born. But they didn't know the full story. They didn't know that for the first 3 months of her pregnancy, Valentina had cried herself to sleep every night, terrified and alone. They didn't know that she'd driven 6 hours to a different city to see a doctor, too afraid that word would get back to Cashin. They didn't know that when the ultrasound showed 3 heartbeats, 3 perfect, impossible heartbeats, she'd laughed until she sobbed, until the doctor worried she was having a breakdown. "Yes," Valentina said softly, brushing Phoenix's curls. "But he's not bad. He's just confused. And we're not here to hurt him." "Then why are we here?" Luna asked, abandoning the bed to join her siblings. "Why did we take his house?" "Before I answer that, can I just say how much I appreciate you all being here? Drop a comment below, and let me know what you think of Valentina's return so far. And if you're loving this story, make sure you're subscribed, because the twists coming up are going to blow your mind. What do you think? Are those triplets really Cashins? Comment your theories. Valentina looked at her children, her miracles, her reason for breathing, and chose her words carefully. "We're here," she said, "because sometimes people need to understand what they threw away. And because this house," she gestured around the opulent room, "this was always mine. Your grandfather bought it 30 years ago, before I was born. He sold it when I was young to fund his restaurant. I've been trying to buy it back ever since I was old enough to understand what it meant." It was true, mostly. Antonio had owned the Grandview estate briefly in the 1990s, during a lucky business venture that had gone south. Valentina had grown up hearing stories about the mansion. The art gallery on the 3rd floor, the library with first editions, the garden where her mother had planted roses before she died of cancer when Valentina was 6. For 20 years, the estate had passed through various owners, always just out of reach. Cashin had been obsessed with buying it because it represented old money, legacy, the kind of prestige his pharmaceutical fortune could buy but never quite earn. Valentina had wanted it because it held her mother's ghost. "So it's not really his house at all," Stella said, understanding dawning. "It's yours." "Ours," Valentina corrected. "Everything I do is for you 3. A knock on the door interrupted them. Valentina tensed, but the voice that called through was familiar. "Val, it's me." She opened the door to find Dominic Montoya, her lawyer, her friend, and the only person besides her father who'd stood by her when the world turned its back. Dominic was 42, silver threading through his black hair, with the kind of quiet intensity that made opposing counsel nervous. He'd handled her divorce for free, driven her to prenatal appointments when she was too anxious to go alone, and held Phoenix when Valentina's arms were full with the girls. He was also hopelessly in love with her, though he'd never said it out loud. "The vultures are circling," Dominic said, slipping into the room and crouching to high-five the triplets. "Cashin's lawyer just called mine. Twice. His mother called 3 times. And every society reporter in the city is parked outside the gates. Let them circle." Valentina moved to the window. Below, she could see guests streaming out of the mansion, phones pressed to ears, scandal written across their faces. "This is just the beginning. Val," Dominic's voice carried a warning. "I know you've been planning this for 3 years. But are you sure? Really sure? Because once you cross this line, there's no going back. The triplets' paternity is going to become public knowledge. Cashin will demand tests. His family will come after you with everything they have. Let them." Valentina turned, and her eyes held the kind of steel that only comes from surviving your worst nightmare. "I have the tests, Dominic. DNA results from a private lab, dated 6 months ago. Cashin Whitmore is the biological father of my children, and I have medical records proving that the fertility issues were never mine." Dominic's eyebrows shot up. "How did you get his DNA?" A small, dangerous smile played on her lips. "Cashin's mother hosts a charity gala every year. 2 years ago, I worked catering through my father's restaurant. Cashin drank champagne from crystal flutes that I made very sure to collect personally." "Jesus, Val. I needed to know," she said fiercely. "Before I came back here, before I bought this house, before I showed him his children, I needed to be absolutely certain. Because I won't let him call me a liar. Not again. Not ever again." The triplets were watching their mother with wide eyes, not understanding the adult complexities, but sensing the emotion beneath. Mama's been planning this for a long time, Luna whispered to her siblings. Mama's scary when she plans, Phoenix agreed. Valentina knelt down, gathering all three into her arms. I'm not scary. I'm just protecting us. All of us. Because families protect each other, right? Right, they chorused. Good. She kissed each of their heads. Now, who wants to explore our new house? As the children raced out of the room, Dominic caught Valentina's arm. What's the endgame here? You've humiliated him publicly, taken his dream house, revealed children he didn't know existed. What happens next? Valentina looked at him for a long moment. In another life, maybe she could have loved Dominic the way he deserved. He was kind, patient, steady. Everything Cashin wasn't. But her heart was still too bruised, too guarded. What happens next, she said quietly, is that Cashin Whitmore learns the most important lesson of his life. That you can't throw people away like trash and expect them to stay gone. That actions have consequences. And that sometimes, her voice hardened. Sometimes the woman you destroy comes back stronger than you ever imagined possible. And then, Valentina smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Then we'll see if he's capable of being the father my children deserve. Or if I'll raise them alone, the way I always knew I might have to. Downstairs, she could hear Cashin's voice rising above the crowd, demanding answers, making threats, unraveling in real time. 3 years ago, that sound would have broken her. Now it was just noise. Valentina Corleone had spent 3 years learning to be unbreakable. And she was just getting started. The engagement party had imploded spectacularly. Amber had locked herself in a bathroom. His mother was threatening lawsuits that would never hold up in court, and half the guests had already sold their stories to gossip sites. His phone hadn't stopped buzzing with messages ranging from schadenfreude to genuine concern. But none of that mattered, because Valentina was standing beside the rose bushes, the ones his landscape designer had insisted on planting last spring, with the triplets running circles around the fountain. And for the first time in 3 years, Cashin was looking at her without the filter of his own arrogance. She was beautiful. She'd always been beautiful, but this was different. The softness he'd taken for weakness had been replaced by something diamond-hard and twice as brilliant. She looked like money, like power, like a woman who'd learned to weaponize every lesson life had beaten into her. She looked like she didn't need him at all. The realization hit him harder than it should have. They're mine. It wasn't a question. Cashin stopped 3 feet away, watching Phoenix climb the fountain's edge while Valentina kept one careful eye on him. Those children are mine. Biologically? Yes. Valentina didn't turn to face him. In every other way that matters? No. That's not how this works. Isn't it? Now she looked at him, and her eyes were cold. You stood in front of cameras and called me Barren. You told the world I'd ruined your legacy. You threw me out like garbage. So tell me, Cashin, when exactly did you earn the right to claim them? He had no answer. The truth sat between them like broken glass. How? His voice cracked. The doctors said we had unexplained infertility. But you never got tested, did you? Valentina's laugh was bitter. Your ego wouldn't allow it. So you blamed me, humiliated me, destroyed me. And then I found out I was pregnant 2 weeks after you threw me out. Cashin felt the ground shift beneath him. 2 weeks. I took the test in a gas station bathroom, Cashin. I was living with my father, eating pasta because it was cheap, wondering if I should even keep breathing. Her voice was steady, but he could hear the rage underneath. And then I saw 3 heartbeats on an ultrasound. 3 impossible, beautiful heartbeats. Your children, growing inside the woman you called defective. Val, don't. She held up a hand. You don't get to call me that anymore. You don't get to pretend this is some misunderstanding we can fix with an apology. You had 3 years to wonder where I went. 3 years to question whether maybe, just maybe, you were wrong. You chose not to. Phoenix jumped from the fountain and ran to Valentina, wrapping his small arms around her leg. She softened immediately, running her fingers through his curls. Mama, can we get a dog? This house needs a dog. We'll talk about it, baby. She kissed his head, and Cashin watched the tenderness in her movements with something that felt uncomfortably like grief. These should have been his moments. His children. His family. I want a paternity test, he said, grasping for control. Before this goes any further. Already done. Valentina pulled her phone from her pocket, scrolling with practiced ease. I had DNA testing done 6 months ago. Got your sample from a champagne flute at your mother's charity gala. Sneaky, I know, but I wasn't about to let you accuse me of lying. She held out the phone. 99.9% match. All three of them. Would you like copies for your lawyers? Cashin took the phone with numb fingers, staring at the clinical language that confirmed what his gut already knew. These were his children. His DNA woven into 3 small humans he'd never held, never known existed. Why didn't you tell me? The question came out strangled. When you found out you were pregnant, why didn't you come back? Valentina's expression hardened. Come back to what? The man who'd just publicly destroyed me? The family that cheered while he did it? She shook her head. You made your choice, Cashin. You chose your pride over everything else. So I chose my children over you. That wasn't your decision to make alone. Yes, it was. Her voice cut like a whip. You gave up any say in their lives the moment you called me Barren on national television. You don't get to play victim now. Can I just pause here and say, wow, the comments are already going crazy. Keep them coming. What would you do in Valentina's position? And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button now because this confrontation is just the beginning. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Daddy. The word froze both of them. Luna stood in the garden path, her face scrunched in confusion. Mama, is that our daddy? The sad one you told us about. Cashin's breath caught. You told them about me? I told them they had a father who wasn't ready to be a father, Valentina said carefully. I told them the truth, that you and I loved each other once, but we couldn't make it work. I told them that someday, maybe, you'd want to meet them. Someday. Cashin's voice rose. I have children and you thought. You have biological offspring, Valentina corrected sharply. Children are built through presence, through sacrifice, through showing up at 3 a.m. when they're sick and holding them through nightmares. You've done none of that. So yes, Cashin. Someday. If you prove you deserve it. Stella joined her sister, both girls studying Cashin with the unnerving directness of children. You have Mama's sad eyes, Stella said. The ones she gets when she thinks we're sleeping. Cashin looked at Valentina and saw, for just a moment, the cracks in her armor. She wasn't invincible. She was exhausted, scared, protecting her children the only way she knew how. I want to be their father, he said quietly. Their real father, not just biology. Then prove it. Valentina gathered her children close. You have 30 days before the eviction is finalized. During that time, you can visit. Get to know them. Show them you're more than the man I told them you were. But Cashin, her eyes held his. If you hurt them the way you hurt me, if you disappoint them, if you make them feel like they're not enough, I will make sure you never see them again. And unlike you, I have the legal standing to do it. You can't. I absolutely can. I have 3 years of sole custody, medical records, financial records, and documentation of your very public character assassination. You're starting from zero. So here's my offer. Prove you've changed. Prove you're capable of putting someone else before your ego. Do that, and maybe we can figure out how to co-parent. Cashin stared at her, at the children who had his eyes and his nose and his grandmother's hairline, at the life he'd thrown away without ever knowing what he was losing. And the house. His voice was hoarse. This was always about more than revenge, wasn't it? The house, Valentina said softly, was about coming home. My mother died here, Cashin, in the room where you just held your engagement party. This house holds every good memory I have of her. So yes, I bought it. And yes, I'm keeping it. But not to hurt you. She looked up at the mansion, and her expression softened with something like peace. I'm keeping it because my children deserve to grow up in a home filled with love. And I'm the only one who can give them that. She turned, taking her children's hands. Come on, babies. Let's go make dinner. Can we have pizza? Phoenix asked. We can have anything you want. They walked away, leaving Cashin standing alone in the garden as the sun set behind the mansion that was no longer his. His phone buzzed. Amber, we need to talk. This changes everything. His mother, get a lawyer. Fight this. She can't be allowed to win. His business partner. The board is concerned about the optics. Call me. But Cashin didn't move. He just stood there, watching through the windows as Valentina lifted Phoenix onto the kitchen counter, as the girls set the table, as they became a family without him. For the first time in his life, Cashin Whitmore understood what he'd lost. And for the first time, he wasn't sure he could get it back. The first visit happened 3 days later. Cashin arrived at the Grandview estate, Valentina's estate, He had to keep reminding himself. With a bag full of expensive toys he'd panic bought at midnight. Remote control cars. Designer dolls. A tablet loaded with educational games. Things his assistant had assured him children loved. Phoenix took one look at the offerings and asked, "Can we just play catch?" The simple request gutted him more than any of Valentina's calculated barbs. "I don't have a ball." Cashin looked helplessly at the pile of gifts that suddenly seemed obscene in their excess. "We do." Luna ran off, returning with a worn soccer ball covered in scuff marks and grass stains. "Uncle Dominic got it for us. He plays with us every Saturday." Uncle Dominic. The lawyer. The man who'd been there for every moment Cashin had missed. Something hot and ugly twisted in his chest, but he swallowed it down and took the ball. "Okay, let's play." For the next hour, Cashin ran around the garden with his children. His children, the phrase still felt foreign. Learning that Phoenix had a wicked competitive streak, that Luna made up elaborate rules mid-game, and that Stella kept stopping to examine flowers and completely forgot she was supposed to be playing. They were perfect. Chaotic and exhausting and absolutely perfect. Valentina watched from the terrace, coffee in hand, her expression unreadable. She was wearing jeans and a simple white shirt, her hair pulled back, and somehow she looked more intimidating than she had in the red dress. This was her territory, her life, her children. He was just a visitor. When the game ended, Phoenix collapsed dramatically on the grass. "I'm dying. I need juice. I'll get it." Valentina moved toward the house, but Cashin stood quickly. "Let me. Please. I want to." He caught himself. "I'd like to help." She studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Kitchen straight back. Juice boxes in the fridge. They liked the apple ones. It was such a small thing, knowing which juice his children preferred, but it felt monumental. Cashin walked through the mansion, through rooms he'd coveted for years, and felt like a stranger in someone else's dream. The kitchen was nothing like he'd imagined. He'd pictured sterile marble and top-of-the-line appliances. Instead, there were finger paintings stuck to the fridge with magnets, a mess of breakfast dishes in the sink, and 3 booster seats at the island. It looked lived in. Loved. He found the juice boxes, organic, no added sugar, another detail that told him Valentina thought about every aspect of their lives, and was heading back when he heard voices from the hallway. "You can't keep doing this." Dominic's voice was low, urgent. "He's going to fight you, Val. His family has unlimited resources. Let them fight." Valentina sounded tired. "I have the truth on my side. The truth doesn't always win. You know that." A pause. Then, "Are you asking me to give him joint custody? After everything he did? I'm asking you to protect yourself. And the kids. If this goes to court, then it goes to court. I won't negotiate with a man who needs to prove basic human decency." Valentina's voice hardened. "He gets 30 days to show me he's changed. That's more than he gave me." Cashin's hands tightened around the juice boxes. He shouldn't be listening, but he couldn't move. "And what about you?" Dominic asked softly. "When do you get to stop fighting? When my children are safe. When they know they're loved. When?" Her voice broke just slightly. "When I'm sure he won't destroy them the way he destroyed me." The words hit Cashin like a physical blow. He'd known, intellectually, that he'd hurt her. But hearing the rawness in her voice, the fear, it made it real in a way it hadn't been before. He cleared his throat loudly, giving them warning, and walked back to the garden. Dominic was gone by the time he returned. Valentina had joined the children on the grass, braiding Luna's hair with practiced fingers. "Mama says you used to be married," Stella said, studying Cashin with unsettling intensity. "But you're not anymore because you were mean to her." "Stella." Valentina's voice was sharp. "It's okay." Cashin sat down heavily. "How did you explain your worst mistakes to a 4-year-old? I was mean to your mom. You're right. I said things I shouldn't have said. I made her very sad." "Why?" Phoenix asked bluntly. "Because I thought I knew everything, and I didn't. I thought." He looked at Valentina, who was watching him with guarded eyes. "I thought being right was more important than being kind. And I was wrong. Are you going to be mean to Mama again?" Luna's chin lifted stubbornly. "Because if you are, Uncle Dominic says he'll." She stopped, glancing at her mother. "Uncle Dominic says he'll what?" Cashin couldn't help asking. "Make sure you regret it," Valentina finished calmly. "And he will. Dominic doesn't make idle threats." There it was again, Dominic. The man who'd been there. The man who clearly loved her. The man who was everything Cashin hadn't been. "I'm not going to be mean to your mom again," Cashin said, keeping his eyes on the children. "I'm going to try very hard to be better. But I'm new at this, so I might mess up sometimes. Is that okay?" The triplets exchanged glances, having one of those silent conversations only siblings could have. "You can have 3 chances," Luna declared. "That's fair." 3. Cashin's lips twitched. "That's it. Uncle Dominic never needs chances," Stella said matter-of-factly. "He's perfect." "Okay, I have to interrupt here because the comments are blowing up about Uncle Dominic. Is he just a friend or something more? What do you think is happening between him and Valentina? Drop your theories below. And make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss how this love triangle develops. Hit that subscribe button right now. The second visit went worse. Cashin arrived to find Amber waiting outside the gates in her car, her face blotchy from crying. "We need to talk," she said, stepping out. "You've been avoiding me for 3 days. Amber, this isn't the time." "When is the time, Cashin? You have 3 secret children. You're visiting your ex-wife. Our engagement party was ruined." Her voice rose hysterically. "What am I supposed to tell people?" "Tell them the truth," he said wearily. "That I'm a father. That I'm trying to figure out how to be in my children's lives." "And what about our lives? Our wedding? Our future?" Cashin looked at her. Really looked at her. And felt nothing. No spark. No connection. She was beautiful and young and uncomplicated. And she bored him in ways he'd never admitted to himself. He'd chosen her because she was the opposite of Valentina. Because she'd never challenge him, never demand more, never make him feel small. Because she'd never leave scars when she left. "I don't think there's going to be a wedding," he said quietly. Amber's face crumpled. "You're choosing them? Children you didn't even know existed a week ago." "I'm choosing to be a father. That's not negotiable. Your mother said this would happen. She said that woman would manipulate you." "Don't." His voice turned cold. "Don't talk about Valentina that way. Whatever our history, she's the mother of my children. You'll respect that or we're done right now." It was the first time he'd defended Valentina in 3 years. The realization shocked him. Amber stared at him like he'd grown a second head. "You're still in love with her." He stopped. Was he? "Could you still love someone you'd destroyed?" "I don't know what I feel. But I know I can't marry you while my life is this complicated." "I'm sorry, Amber. You deserve better than half of someone." She slapped him. Hard. Then got in her car and drove off, tires screeching. Cashin stood there, tasting blood from where her ring had caught his lip, and felt nothing but relief. He was halfway to the house when his phone rang. His mother. "I'm not having this conversation right now. The board is talking about removing you as CEO." Constance cut in. "The scandal is affecting stock prices. You need to do damage control immediately. I'm trying to build a relationship with my children. Those children are a liability. That woman is using them to destroy you. Those children are your grandchildren." The words exploded out of him. "Their blood. Their family. And if you can't accept that, then maybe we need to reevaluate our relationship too." Silence. Then, "Have you lost your mind?" "No." For the first time in years, his mind felt clear. "I think I'm finally finding it." He hung up. When he reached the front door, Valentina was standing there, arms crossed. She'd heard everything. "You just blew up your engagement and told off your mother," she said. "In one afternoon." "Yeah." He touched his split lip gingerly. "Productive day. The kids are waiting inside. Phoenix wants to show you his rock collection. Apparently it's very impressive." Valentina. Don't." She held up a hand. "Don't apologize. Don't explain. Just go be with your kids. You're burning daylight." He nodded and moved past her, but paused in the doorway. "For what it's worth, Dominic's not perfect. No one is." Valentina's expression was unreadable. "No, but he's never made me feel worthless. And right now, that's pretty damn close to perfect." She walked away, leaving Cashin with the taste of blood in his mouth and the growing certainty that winning back his children might be easier than winning back their mother. And for the first time, he wanted both. The truth came out on day 17. Cashin had been visiting every afternoon, slowly earning the triplets' trust through soccer games, terrible knock-knock jokes, and learning to braid hair badly. He'd stopped trying to buy their affection and started just showing up, being present, listening. He was on his second chance. He'd used the first when he'd forgotten Phoenix's peanut allergy and brought cookies that could have killed him. Valentina had gone white as a sheet, and Cashin had felt like the worst father alive. But he was learning. Slowly. Painfully. He was learning. He arrived that Tuesday with books. Phoenix loved dinosaurs, Luna wanted fairy tales, Stella was obsessed with space. Simple gifts. Thoughtful ones. The house was unusually quiet. He found Valentina in the library, surrounded by papers, her face buried in her hands. She didn't hear him approach, too lost in whatever was consuming her. Val! She jerked up, quickly wiping her eyes. You're early. What's wrong? He moved closer, saw the documents spread across the desk. Medical files, legal documents, and a letter with his mother's law firm's letterhead. His blood went cold. What did she do? Your mother is suing for grandparents' rights, Valentina said, her voice hollow. She's claiming I'm an unfit mother, that I've been keeping her grandchildren from her maliciously, that you've been trying to be involved and I've been blocking you. That's insane. Is it? Valentina stood, and he saw the exhaustion etched into every line of her face. Because from where I'm standing, you've been playing happy families for 2 weeks while your mother's lawyers have been building a case against me. I didn't know about this. I swear. It doesn't matter if you knew. Her voice cracked. Don't you see? This is exactly what I was afraid of. Your family has unlimited resources. They can tie me up in court for years. They can drag my name through the mud again. They can. She stopped, pressing her fingers to her temples. They can take my children from me. No one is taking the kids. You don't know that. You can't promise that. She was shaking now, 3 years of control finally fracturing. I've been raising them alone, Cashin. Alone. While you were playing CEO and planning your new wedding. I've been up at 3 a.m. with sick babies, juggling 2 jobs to save money for this house, teaching them to read and tie their shoes and... Her voice broke completely. She sank into the chair, and for the first time since she'd walked back into his life, Valentina Corleone looked defeated. Cashin did the only thing he could think of. He knelt in front of her. I'll stop it. Today. Right now. I'll call my mother and tell her to drop the lawsuit or she'll never see me or the kids again. She won't listen to you. Then I'll make her listen. He took her hands. She tried to pull away, but he held firm. Val, I know I don't deserve your trust. I know I've given you every reason to hate me. But I'm not that man anymore. Or I'm trying not to be. She looked at him with red-rimmed eyes. Why should I believe you? Because, he stopped. Why should she believe him? What had he done to earn it? The answer came from an unexpected place. Because he's here every day, Dominic's voice said from the doorway. Both of them turned to find him standing there, expression grave. I've been watching Val. He broke off his engagement. He told off his mother. He's showing up even though the kids still call me uncle, and barely let him pass the front door. That's not manipulation. That's effort. Dom. I love you, Dominic said simply, and the words hung in the air like a confession at church. I've loved you for 3 years. I would have married you in a heartbeat, raised those kids as my own, spent the rest of my life trying to make you happy. He smiled sadly. But that's not what you need. Valentina stood, tears streaming down her face. What are you saying? I'm saying that man, he pointed at Cashin, destroyed you. And you deserve to see him grovel for the rest of his life. But those kids deserve to have a father who's trying. And whether we like it or not, he's trying. Cashin felt like he'd been punched in the chest. This man, this good, decent man who'd been there for everything, was stepping aside. For him. But, Dominic continued, his voice hardening, if you hurt her again, Cashin, if you let your family hurt her or those kids, I won't need lawyers. We clear? Crystal. Dominic nodded once, then looked at Valentina. I'll always be here. As your friend. As the kid's Uncle Dom. But I can't be the man waiting in the wings anymore. It's not fair to any of us. He left before she could respond. The silence stretched between them, heavy with everything unsaid. I didn't know he felt that way, Cashin said quietly. I did. Valentina's voice was barely a whisper. I've known for years. He never said it, but I knew. Do you love him? She was quiet for so long he thought she wouldn't answer. I love him the way you love someone who saved your life. Gratefully. Deeply. But not. She stopped. Not the way he deserves. Cashin shouldn't have felt relieved, but he did. The lawsuit. I'll handle it. Today. And if your mother doesn't back down, then I'll testify against her. I'll tell the court exactly who kept these children from their grandparents. And it wasn't you. It was me. He stood, and his jaw was set with determination she recognized from their marriage, when he'd actually given a damn about something. I threw you away, Val. I'm the one who didn't deserve to know about the pregnancy. I'm the one who needs to earn my place in their lives. Why now? Her voice was raw. Why do you suddenly care? Because I met them. The answer came easily, honestly. Because Phoenix laughs at my terrible jokes and Luna gives me fashion advice and Stella shows me every butterfly in the garden. Because they're real. They're not some abstract concept of legacy and bloodlines. They're people. They're mine and they're yours and they're perfect. His voice cracked. And because every time I look at you with them, I see what we could have been. What I destroyed because I was too arrogant to see what I had. Valentina stared at him, and something in her expression shifted. Not forgiveness. It was too soon for that. But maybe the beginning of possibility. I need to know something, she said. And I need the truth. Anything. Did you ever love me? Really love me? Or was I just, she swallowed hard, just convenient until I couldn't give you what you wanted? The question hung between them like a blade. Cashin thought about their wedding day, her in white, laughing at something he'd whispered. Thought about Sunday mornings in bed, her sketching while he read the paper. Thought about the exact moment he decided his mother was right, that Valentina wasn't enough, that he deserved better. I loved you, he said, and his voice was thick with regret. I loved you so much it terrified me. And when the doctors said we couldn't have kids, when my mother started planting seeds of doubt, when everyone around me said I was wasting my prime years, I convinced myself it was your fault, because blaming you was easier than admitting I was scared. Scared of what? That you were the best thing that would ever happen to me, that I didn't deserve you, that if I loved you the way I wanted to, I'd lose myself completely. He laughed bitterly. So I destroyed us first, before you could realize you'd married a coward. Valentina's eyes were shining with unshed tears. You were a coward. You still are in some ways. I know, but you're here. That counts for something. Outside, they could hear the triplets playing, their laughter floating through the open windows. Inside, two people who destroyed each other were learning to stand in the same room without bleeding. I'm going to fight for them, Cashin said. For all of you. My mother, the board, whoever comes. I'm done letting other people dictate my life. And Amber? It's over. It's been over. He moved closer, carefully, like approaching something wild. It was never real, Val. Not like, he stopped. Not like us. There is no us, she said, but her voice wavered. Maybe not now. Maybe not for years. But someday. He let the question hang. Someday, when I've proven I'm not that man anymore, when the kids actually want me around, when you can look at me without seeing everything I did wrong, maybe we could try again. As friends first. As co-parents. Don't. She held up a hand. Don't make promises you can't keep. Then I'll make one I can. I'm not going anywhere. You're stuck with me, Valentina Corleone. For better or worse. Mostly worse, probably. Despite everything, she almost smiled. You're still an arrogant ass. Working on it. The moment shattered when Phoenix burst through the door. Mama, Daddy, come quick. Luna and Stella are arguing about whether unicorns poop rainbows, and we need adult supervision. Daddy. Phoenix had called him Daddy. Cashin's eyes locked with Valentina's, and for the first time, he saw something that looked like hope. The conference room at Whitmore Pharmaceuticals had never felt so cold. Cashin sat at the head of the table. His table, his company, his legacy. And looked at the 15 board members staring back at him with varying degrees of concern, disapproval, and calculation. His mother sat at the opposite end, her expression carved from ice. Let me be clear, Cashin said, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. As of this morning, I've instructed our legal team to withdraw the grandparents' rights lawsuit. Completely. No negotiations. The room erupted. You can't be serious. The optics alone. Your mother has every right. Enough. Cashin's fist hit the table, silencing them all. I'm not asking for permission. I'm telling you what's happening. My mother will drop the lawsuit, or I will resign as CEO and take my shares with me. Constance's eyes narrowed. You're bluffing. Try me. He met her gaze without flinching. I spent 3 years building this company while destroying my personal life. I'm done sacrificing my family for profit margins and board approval. Those children are your family, Constance said coldly, which is exactly why I'm fighting for access to them. That woman has poisoned them against us. That woman raised them alone while we threw her to the wolves. Cashin's voice echoed off the walls. Valentina didn't keep them from us. I did. When I called her Barren on national television. When I threw her out with nothing. When I never once asked if maybe, just maybe, the fertility problems weren't her fault. The silence was deafening. I had testing done last week, Cashin continued, pulling out a folder. Full fertility workup. Turns out I have low sperm count. Probably always did. The doctors said natural conception would be difficult, but not impossible. He slid the documents across the table. Which means I destroyed my marriage, humiliated the woman I loved, and missed 3 years of my children's lives because I was too arrogant to get a simple test. One of the board members, Gerald Chun, father of 3, cleared his throat. Cashin, we understand you're emotional, but I'm not emotional. I'm awake. For the first time in years. Cashin stood. Here's what's going to happen. Mother will drop the lawsuit. She will publicly apologize to Valentina. And she will wait, patiently, until Valentina decides she's ready to introduce the children to their grandmother. If she does any of those things, I will vote to remove her from the board. Constance's face went white. You wouldn't dare. I own 42% of this company. I absolutely would dare. He grabbed his briefcase. The motion's already drafted. All it needs is my signature. So ask yourself, Mother, what matters more? Your pride or knowing your grandchildren? He walked out before anyone could respond. His phone rang before he reached the parking garage. Dominic, tell me you didn't just threaten to blow up your mother's board seat, Dominic said. How did you? Because Gerald Chin called me 30 seconds ago asking if you've lost your mind. A pause. Have you? Probably. Cashin climbed into his car. Is Val okay? After yesterday. She's at the house. The kids are at a play date with my sister's twins, so she's alone if you want to. Dominic stopped. Why am I helping you? Because you're a better man than me? Damn right I am. But there was something like humor in Dominic's voice. Go. Talk to her. Just don't screw it up. I can only step aside once. Cashin found Valentina in the art gallery on the 3rd floor. The room her mother had designed, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the rose garden. She was painting. He'd forgotten she painted. No, he'd stopped noticing. Somewhere in their marriage, her art had become background noise to his ambition. It's beautiful, he said from the doorway. Valentina didn't turn. It's therapy. There's a difference. The canvas showed 3 small figures running through a garden, all joy and movement and color. In the background, barely visible, was the shadow of a man watching. Is that me? He asked. It's whoever you want it to be. She set down her brush. Dominic called. Said you just committed corporate suicide. Feels more like resurrection. He moved closer, careful not to startle her. The lawsuit's dead. My mother will back off or lose everything. And he stopped. I'm sorry. For all of it. For not saying it sooner. Sorry doesn't undo 3 years, Cashin. I know. But it's a start. He gestured to the painting. Can I ask you something? When you were pregnant, when you found out about the triplets, did you ever think about telling me? Valentina was quiet for so long he thought she wouldn't answer. Every day, she finally said. I'd pick up the phone and dial your number. I'd get as far as the last digit, and then I'd remember your face when you called me Barren. The disgust. The relief. She turned to face him, and her eyes were dry but haunted. You looked relieved, Cashin. Like I'd finally given you permission to leave. The words hit him like bullets. I was a coward, he said hoarsely. I blamed you for my own failures. I let my mother's poison into our marriage. I chose my image over. His voice cracked. Over everything that mattered. Why are you really here? Valentina asked. Not the board drama. Not the kids. Why are you standing in my art gallery looking at me like? She stopped. Like what? Like you're seeing me for the first time. Cashin moved closer, slow and deliberate. Because I am. I married a girl who made me laugh and challenged me and saw through all my bullshit. But I was so busy trying to mold her into what I thought I needed that I never appreciated what I had. He gestured around the gallery. This room. Your art. The way you hum when you cook. The way you scrunch your nose when you're thinking. I took it all for granted. Past tense, Valentina noted. You took it for granted. Present tense, I see you now. And you're terrifying and brilliant and stronger than I ever gave you credit for. He was close enough now to see the paint on her fingers, the exhaustion in her eyes. I don't deserve forgiveness. I don't deserve a second chance. But Val, I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to earn both. For the kids. For all of you. For them because they're my children and I love them. For you because... He stopped, the words catching in his throat. Because what? Because I never stopped loving you. Even when I hated myself for it. Even when I tried to replace you with someone easier, younger, less complicated. His laugh was bitter. Turns out you can't replace the sun. You just end up cold. Valentina's brush clattered to the floor. Before either of them could move, the door burst open. Luna stood there, tears streaming down her face, Phoenix and Stella flanking her. Mama. Luna's voice was pure anguish. Some kids at the playdate said mean things about you. They said their parents said you trapped Daddy in. She couldn't finish. Valentina was across the room in seconds, gathering all three children into her arms. Hey, it's okay. People say stupid things when they don't understand. But they said you were bad. Stella sobbed. They said Daddy didn't want us. Cashin felt something crack open in his chest. He knelt beside them. That's a lie. I want you so much it scares me. And your mama is the strongest, bravest person I know. Phoenix looked at him with those two old eyes. Then why did you leave her? The question every adult had been too polite to ask. Because I was weak, Cashin said simply. Because I listened to the wrong people and made the worst mistake of my life. But I'm here now, and I'm not leaving again. Promise? Luna asked. I promise. You're on your last chance, Stella reminded him seriously. If you break this one, I won't. Valentina met his eyes over the children's heads, and something passed between them. Not forgiveness, not yet, but understanding, common ground. They were building something here, something fragile and precious and worth fighting for. Outside, storm clouds gathered. Inside, a family started learning how to be whole. The tension is rising and I am living for this redemption arc. What do you think? Can Cashin really change? Drop your thoughts below. And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that button now. The board meeting 3 days later was a massacre. Cashin walked into the Whitmore Pharmaceuticals conference room, knowing he was about to commit professional suicide. The 15 board members sat in their usual positions, his mother at the far end, her expression carved from granite. Let's get to the point, Constance said before Cashin could even sit down. The stockholders are nervous. The press is circling. Your situation has cost us $12 million in stock value in 2 weeks. My situation, Cashin repeated flatly, is that I have 3 children I'm trying to build a relationship with. Children you didn't know existed until their mother showed up to humiliate you, Gerald Chin interjected. Cashin, we understand this is personal, but nothing. Cashin remained standing. I'm here to inform you that I've instructed our legal team to withdraw the grandparents' rights lawsuit my mother filed without my knowledge or consent. The room exploded with overlapping voices. You can't be serious. Constance has every right. Think about the optics. Cashin's fist hit the mahogany table, silencing them all. I'm not asking permission. The lawsuit is withdrawn. My mother will issue a public apology to Valentina Corleone, or I will resign as CEO and sell my 42% stake to the highest bidder. Constance's face went white, then red. You're bluffing. Try me. Cashin pulled out a folder, sliding it across the table. I had fertility testing done. Turns out I have severely low sperm count. Probably always did. Natural conception was unlikely, but not impossible. Which means I spent 3 years blaming my ex-wife for something that was my fault. The silence was deafening. I destroyed my marriage on national television, Cashin continued, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. I called the woman I loved Barren. I threw her out with nothing. And then she got pregnant, with triplets, and didn't tell me because I'd proven I didn't deserve to know. Son, Constance started. Don't. His voice cracked like a whip. You encouraged this. You planted seeds of doubt about Valentina from day one. You told me I deserved better, that she wasn't good enough, that the Whitmore legacy was more important than my marriage. He looked directly at his mother. You were wrong, and I was too weak to see it. Margaret Holloway, one of the older board members, cleared her throat. What exactly are you proposing, Cashin? I'm proposing that we remember what this company was supposed to be about. Helping people, not exploiting them for profit. He pulled out another document. I've been reviewing our pricing structures. We've increased medication costs by 300% in the last 5 years. Children are dying because their parents can't afford insulin we manufacture for pennies. That's business, another board member protested. That's murder. Cashin's voice was cold. And I'm done being complicit. So here's what's going to happen. We're restructuring our pricing. We're establishing a patient assistance program. And we're going to start acting like the humanitarian company we claim to be. The stockholders will never approve. Then they can vote me out. But they'll do it knowing the truth about what we've become. He turned to his mother. You have 24 hours to drop the lawsuit and apologize. After that, I'm going public with everything, including the fact that you knew about our pricing schemes and approved them. Constance stood, trembling with rage. You would destroy your own family? You destroyed my family when you convinced me to throw away the best thing that ever happened to me. Cashin's voice broke. I have 3 children who barely know me. An ex-wife who looks at me like I'm a monster. And I deserve all of it. But those kids, they deserve a father who's better than the man I was. Better than the man you raised me to be. He walked out before anyone could respond. His phone was ringing before he reached the elevator. Dominic. Tell me you didn't just threaten your entire board, Dominic said. I didn't threaten them. I promised them. Cashin stepped into the elevator, suddenly exhausted. How's Val? Terrified. She thinks your mother's going to escalate. A pause. Cashin, there's something you should know. Constance hired a private investigator. They've been following Valentina for the past week. Cashin's blood ran cold. Following her? Why? Looking for anything they can use in court. Drinking, neglect, men, anything to paint her as unfit. Dominic's voice hardened. They followed her to the grocery store yesterday. The triplets were with her. Phoenix noticed and got scared. The elevator walls seemed to close in. Is he okay? He's fine. But Val's not. She's talking about leaving the city, taking the kids somewhere your family can't reach them. No. The word came out strangled. No, she can't. I just got them back. Then stop your mother. Because if Val disappears with those kids, you'll never find them. And legally, she has every right. The call ended. Cashin stood in the parking garage, his car keys in his hand, and felt the weight of every mistake he'd ever made crushing down on him. He found Valentina in the garden at sunset, watching the triplets chase fireflies. She didn't turn when he approached. Your mother's investigator took pictures of me buying wine at the grocery store. They're going to claim I'm an alcoholic. I know. Dominic told me. Cashin stopped a few feet away. It's over. I told the board to drop the lawsuit or I walk. And they agreed. They will. My mother has 24 hours to comply. He moved closer. Val, I'm sorry. For all of it. For my mother, for the investigators, for... Don't. She finally turned to face him, and her eyes were red-rimmed. Don't apologize. Just fix it. Make her stop. Because I can't do this anymore, Cashin. I can't keep fighting your family while trying to give our children a normal life. Our children, he repeated softly. You called them our children. They are. Her voice cracked. Biologically yours, raised by me, loved by both of us even when we can't stand each other. That's what co-parenting is, isn't it? Before he could respond, Phoenix ran over, his hands cupped carefully. Daddy. Look. I caught a firefly. Daddy. The words still sent electricity through Cashin's chest. He knelt down, examining the insect glowing in Phoenix's small palms. That's amazing, buddy. You know what? My dad used to catch fireflies with me when I was your age. Really? Phoenix's eyes widened. Was he nice like you? The question caught Cashin off guard. His own father had died when he was 12, a heart attack, sudden and devastating. The man had been distant, controlled, everything Constance wanted in a Whitmore heir. He tried to be, Cashin said honestly. But sometimes he let other people tell him how to live. I don't want to make that mistake. Phoenix considered this with the seriousness only a 4-year-old could muster. You should let the firefly go. Mama says keeping things that want to fly makes them sad. Your mama is very smart. Phoenix opened his hands, and the firefly drifted away into the darkening sky. Then he threw his arms around Cashin's neck, sudden and fierce. I'm glad you're my daddy, Phoenix whispered. Even if you were sad before. Cashin's eyes burned. He looked up at Valentina, who was watching them with an expression he couldn't quite read. I'm glad too, he managed. Luna and Stella joined them, demanding their own firefly-catching lessons. For the next hour, Cashin chased insects with his children while Valentina watched from the terrace, her phone dark, her guard slowly lowering. When the triplets finally tired, begging for bedtime stories, Valentina stood. Come on, babies. Bath time. Can Daddy read us stories? Luna asked. Valentina hesitated, and Cashin held his breath. If he wants to, she finally said. I want to, Cashin said quickly. More than anything. An hour later, he emerged from the children's room, a space decorated with stars and dinosaurs and fairy tales, to find Valentina waiting in the hallway. They're asleep, he said. Luna made me read her princess book 3 times. Stella fell asleep during the space chapter. And Phoenix is convinced dinosaurs are coming back. Despite everything, Valentina smiled. He's been obsessed with Jurassic Park. I told him it's not real, but 4-year-olds believe in possibilities. Cashin leaned against the wall. Val, if your mother doesn't back down, if the lawsuit continues, I'll testify against her. I'll tell the court everything. The truth about the fertility issues, about why you didn't tell me about the pregnancy, about how my family drove you away. That'll destroy your relationship with her. I know. You'll lose everything. Your position at the company, your inheritance, your family's approval. I know that too. He met her eyes. But I won't lose my children. Not again. And I won't let you face this alone anymore. Valentina studied him for a long moment. Then slowly she reached out and took his hand. It was the first time she'd touched him voluntarily since the engagement party. Okay, she whispered. We fight together. For them. For them, he agreed. Neither of them knew that downstairs, Constance Whitmore had just arrived at the gate, a team of lawyers behind her, ready for war. The doorbell rang at 7 a.m., shattering the fragile peace. Valentina was in the kitchen making breakfast, the triplets still asleep upstairs, when she heard the commotion at the front gate. Through the window, she saw 3 black SUVs parked outside, and her blood turned to ice. Constance Whitmore stood at the door flanked by 4 lawyers, 2 private investigators, and a woman Valentina recognized from social services. Open this door immediately, Constance's voice carried through the intercom. Or I'll have the police do it for me. Valentina's hands shook as she pressed the button. What do you want? I'm here to see my grandchildren. And to serve you with an emergency custody petition. Constance held up papers. I have documentation of your unfitness as a mother. Alcohol purchases, financial instability, exposing the children to strange men. Dominic is my lawyer. Is that what you call him? Constance's smile was vicious. The investigators' photos tell a different story. You and Mr. Montoya appear quite intimate. Before Valentina could respond, Cashin's car screeched into the driveway. He was out before the engine stopped, still wearing yesterday's clothes, his face dark with fury. What the hell are you doing here? He demanded. Protecting my grandchildren from an unstable woman. Constance thrust the papers at him. Emergency custody hearing, 9 a.m. today. I have 3 judges who owe me favors. You won't make it to court. Cashin pulled out his phone, dialing quickly. Hello, Judge Morrison? Yes, it's Cashin Whitmore. I'm calling to report an attempted fraud. Yes, my mother is trying to file false documents. No, I'll be providing testimony against her. Constance's face went white. You wouldn't dare. Watch me. Cashin ended the call. I have the fertility test results. I have documented proof that you encouraged me to divorce Valentina. I have recordings of you instructing your lawyers to fabricate evidence. He stepped closer to his mother. And I have 3 children upstairs who don't need a grandmother who thinks love is something you litigate. Those children are Whitmore's. Those children are Phoenix, Luna, and Stella. Valentina cut in, her voice steady despite her shaking hands. They're not weapons in your family drama. They're not pawns in your games. They're human beings who deserve better than this. One of the lawyers stepped forward. Mrs. Whitmore, perhaps we should reconsider. I'm not reconsidering anything. Constance's control finally cracked. My son threw away a perfectly good marriage for this nobody from nowhere. And now she's using his children to destroy everything we've built. I'm not using anyone, Valentina said quietly. I'm raising my children. The children your son didn't want to know about because he was too busy calling me defective on television. You trapped him. I got pregnant 2 weeks after he threw me out. Valentina's voice finally rose, years of pain and rage spilling over. I was living in my father's spare room, eating pasta because I couldn't afford anything else, wondering if life was worth living. And then I found out I was carrying triplets, his triplets, and I made a choice. She stepped forward, and even Constance retreated from the fire in her eyes. I chose to protect them from a man who'd proven he valued pride over people. From a family that measured worth in bloodlines and bank accounts. From a grandmother who would rather destroy their mother than admit she was wrong. Valentina's voice dropped to something deadly. So yes, I kept them from you. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Mama. Everyone turned. Phoenix stood in the doorway, Luna and Stella flanking him, all three in their pajamas. They must have heard the shouting. Phoenix looked at Constance, then at Valentina, his small face confused and scared. Why is the angry lady yelling at you? Valentina was across the room in seconds, gathering all three children close. It's okay, baby. Adults are just having a disagreement. She looks like Daddy, Stella observed, studying Constance with unsettling directness. But meaner. Despite everything, Cashin almost laughed. That's my mother. Your grandmother. Luna tilted her head. Mama said we have a grandmother who wasn't ready to meet us yet. Is this her? Constance stared at the triplets. Really looked at them for the first time. Phoenix had the Whitmore nose. Luna had her late husband's smile. Stella had eyes that were pure Cashin. They were perfect, beautiful, undeniably hers. And they were looking at her like she was a monster. Constance's voice failed her. I didn't mean to frighten you. Then why did you bring all these people? Phoenix asked with brutal 4-year-old honesty. Mama says people who need lots of helpers are usually scared of something. The observation hit like a physical blow. Valentina met Constance's eyes over the children's heads, and something passed between them. Two women who'd both lost too much to pride and fear. Your grandmother was scared, Valentina said softly to the children. Scared that she'd lost her son. Scared that she'd never know you. Scared that everything her family built would disappear. She looked at Constance. But fear makes people do terrible things sometimes. Doesn't it? Constance's hands trembled. The lawyers shifted uncomfortably. Even the social services worker looked uncertain. I want to meet my grandchildren, Constance finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. I want to know them. But she stopped, pride warring with desperation. I don't know how. Cashin stepped forward. You start by apologizing to their mother, the woman you tried to destroy, the woman who raised them alone while we were too busy being terrible people. I'm not apologizing to. Then you don't meet them. Cashin's voice was steel. You don't get to hurt Val and then expect access to her children. That's not how this works. Constance looked at her son, really looked at him, and saw a stranger. When had he become so strong? When had he stopped needing her approval? When had she lost him? I'm sorry, Constance said, and the words came out strangled. She looked at Valentina. I'm sorry for what I said about you. For the investigators. For trying to take your children. Her voice cracked. I was wrong, and I'm terrified of being alone. It wasn't a perfect apology. It wasn't even a particularly good one. But it was honest. Valentina studied the older woman for a long moment. Then she looked down at the triplets. What do you think? Should we invite your grandmother in for breakfast? The children exchanged one of their silent conversations. Only if she's nice, Luna declared. And doesn't yell, Stella added. And likes dinosaurs, Phoenix finished. Despite everything, the lawyers, the investigators, the years of pain, Valentina smiled. Those seem like reasonable conditions. She looked at Constance. You have one chance. Don't waste it. An hour later, Constance Whitmore sat in Valentina's kitchen, drinking coffee while Phoenix explained the entire plot of Jurassic Park in excruciating detail. The lawyers had been dismissed. The social services worker had left with apologies. The SUVs were gone. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But it was a beginning. Cashin found Valentina on the terrace, watching the sunrise paint the garden gold. Thank you, he said, for letting her stay. After everything she did. I didn't do it for her. Valentina's voice was soft. I did it for them. Every child deserves grandparents who love them. Even imperfect ones. She paused. And maybe I did it for me too. Because I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of being angry. I'm tired of carrying 3 years of pain. Cashin moved closer, careful not to spook her. What do you want instead? I want to paint again. I want to open that art gallery I dreamed about before I met you. I want my children to grow up knowing they're loved by both their parents, even if those parents aren't together. She turned to face him. And I want to stop looking at you and seeing the man who destroyed me. I want to see the father you're trying to become. Can I help? With the gallery, I mean. I don't need your money, Cashin. I know, but maybe you need a partner. Someone who believes in you. Someone who owes you about 1,000,000 apologies and a lifetime of making things right. He smiled slightly. I'm very good at business plans. Terrible at art, but excellent at business plans. Despite herself, Valentina laughed. It was a small sound, rusty from disuse, but real. We'll see, she said. First, you finish earning those 3 chances. Then maybe, we talk about business partnerships. And after that, his voice was hopeful. After I've proven I'm not the man I was? After that, Valentina looked at him. And for the first time in 3 years, she allowed herself to see the man she'd once loved beneath the monster he'd become. After that, we see if second chances are real. Or if some things stay broken forever. I'll take those odds, Cashin said. Inside, they could hear Constance asking Phoenix about his rock collection, Luna explaining why unicorns were scientifically possible, and Stella demanding waffles. It sounded like chaos. It sounded like family. It sounded like home. 6 months later, Valentina stood in front of the Corleone Gallery, watching workers install the final letters of the sign. The building was historic, a converted warehouse in the arts district with exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows. It had taken 4 months to renovate, another 2 to curate the opening collection. Every piece told a story of survival, of women who'd been broken and rebuilt themselves stronger. It was her mother's dream, and now it was hers. Mama! Mama! Luna came running down the sidewalk, Cashin struggling to keep up with all 3 children. Daddy bought us ice cream and Phoenix got it all over his shirt. Phoenix indeed had chocolate smeared across his face, looking completely unrepentant. Stella was lecturing him about the importance of napkins. Valentina laughed, something she did more easily now. Did you at least save some for me? Daddy said you'd want strawberry. Phoenix held up a dripping cone. But I might have licked it a little bit. Just a little? Cashin raised an eyebrow, but his smile was genuine. He looked different these days. Lighter somehow, despite working longer hours. He'd restructured Whitmore Pharmaceuticals from the ground up, cutting executive salaries to fund patient assistance programs. The board had fought him. He'd won. His mother had abstained from the vote. Progress. The gallery looks incredible, Cashin said, studying the facade. Your mother would be proud. It was the first time he'd mentioned Valentina's mother without her having to prompt him. Another small victory in a war that was finally becoming a peace. Thank you for the contractor recommendation, Valentina said, and for not making it weird when I insisted on paying him myself. Your gallery, your money, your dream. Cashin had learned when to step back. It had only taken 3 years and a public humiliation to teach him. The triplets had already darted inside, their excited voices echoing off the high ceilings. Valentina and Cashin followed, and for a moment, she saw the space through his eyes. The paintings she'd created during her darkest hours, now reframed as testaments to survival. The sculptures by local artists she'd discovered. The back room she'd designated for classes. Teaching kids from underprivileged neighborhoods that art could be escape and expression and healing all at once. Mama, this painting looks like us. Stella stood in front of a canvas Valentina had finished last week. It showed 3 small figures running toward the light, with 2 adult shadows walking parallel paths that were slowly converging. That's because it is you, Valentina said softly. Are those you and Daddy? Luna asked with the bluntness of a 5-year-old. They'd had their birthday last month, a joint party that had included Constance, Dominic, Valentina's father, and even Amber, who'd sent a generous gift and a note that said simply, "They're beautiful. You deserved better. We both did." Maybe, Valentina said carefully. Or maybe it's just about 2 people learning to walk in the same direction. Cashin stepped closer to the painting, and she watched his throat work. When did you paint this? Last Tuesday. After you brought the kids back from the aquarium, and Phoenix spent an hour telling me about seahorses. She paused. After you didn't make excuses to stay. After you just respected my boundaries. It's beautiful, he said quietly. Are you selling it? No. This one's not for sale. Valentina touched the canvas gently. This one's still being written. The gallery opening 2 weeks later was packed. Valentina had expected a decent turnout. Her father's restaurant connections, some local artists, maybe a few curious onlookers who remembered the scandal. What she hadn't expected was the line around the block. Apparently, her story had resonated. The press called her the Phoenix Rising. a woman who'd been publicly destroyed and privately rebuilt herself. They loved the narrative. Abandoned wife becomes successful single mother and gallery owner. Redemption porn at its finest. Valentina tried not to let it bother her. They still didn't know the full story. The nights she'd cried herself to sleep, the terror of raising triplets alone, the crushing weight of trying to be enough when someone had publicly declared you weren't. But they didn't need to know that part. Some scars were private. Ms. Corleone? A young woman approached, maybe 22, with nervous hands and hopeful eyes. I just wanted to say thank you. I saw your interview about the fertility stuff and the divorce and… She stopped, gathering courage. My boyfriend just left me because I can't have kids, and I thought I was worthless. But seeing what you built, seeing your children, seeing that you didn't let him define you. Her voice cracked. It gave me hope. Valentina pulled the girl into a hug, this stranger who carried the same wounds. You're not worthless. You're never worthless. And anyone who can't see that doesn't deserve you. The girl nodded, tears streaming, and disappeared into the crowd. Cashin appeared at Valentina's elbow. You okay? Yeah. She wiped her own eyes. Just remembering why I did this. To rub my nose in your success? His tone was teasing, but his eyes were serious. To prove I existed beyond your opinion of me. She looked up at him. But also, to give other people permission to exist beyond someone else's cruelty. To show that being broken isn't the end. It's just the middle. And what's the end? Valentina looked around the gallery, at her father laughing with patrons, at Dominic charming a group of potential buyers. He'd remained her friend, her champion, but never again crossed the line into hope for something more. At Constance sitting with the triplets in the children's corner, reading them a story about a grandmother who learned to say sorry. I don't think there is an end, Valentina said slowly. I think there's just continuing. Choosing to wake up every day and build something better than yesterday. Choosing to let people earn their place in your life instead of giving it freely. Choosing to give second chances to people who don't deserve them. Cashin finished. She met his eyes. You're on month 6 of your redemption arc. How's it feel? Exhausting. Humbling. Necessary. He paused. The kids asked me yesterday if I was going to marry you again. Valentina's heart stuttered. What did you tell them? I told them that your mama is the smartest, strongest person I know, and if she ever decides to give me that honor, I'll spend the rest of my life being worthy of it. His voice dropped. But that I'm not asking because some things can't be rushed. Some things have to be earned so slowly that you barely notice it's happening until one day you look up and realize you're home. Cashin, I'm not proposing, he said quickly. I'm just saying, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. And whenever you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'll be waiting. Not because I'm entitled to you, but because loving you was the smartest thing I ever did, and losing you was the stupidest. Valentina opened her mouth to respond, but Phoenix came barreling over. Mama, there's a reporter who wants to talk to you about women's empowerment. Duty calls, she said, and Cashin nodded. But as she walked away, she looked back once. He was crouched down with Luna and Stella, examining one of her paintings, explaining color theory with the patience of a man who'd learned that being present was worth more than being right. He'd changed. Not overnight. Not dramatically. But in small, consistent ways that added up to something real. And maybe, that was enough. 3 months later, on a random Tuesday, Valentina found Cashin building a treehouse in the garden. The triplets were at school. The house was quiet. And there he was, shirtless and sweaty, cursing at a stubborn plank of wood. What are you doing? She asked. He startled, nearly dropping the hammer. Building a treehouse. Phoenix mentioned wanting one, and I thought. He stopped. I probably should have asked first. This is your house. Your tree. I'm sorry, I'll take it down. Cashin. Breathe. Valentina climbed the ladder, settling onto the half-finished platform. It's fine. It's sweet, actually. He sat beside her, and they looked out over the garden together. The roses were blooming, the ones his landscaper had planted, which Valentina had almost ripped out before deciding that even painful memories could grow into something beautiful given enough time. I've been thinking, Cashin said carefully, about the future, about what co-parenting looks like long-term. And I wanted to ask, he turned to face her, would you ever consider letting me move back in? Not to your room, he added quickly. Not as your husband, just as a more present father. Someone who's here for breakfast and bedtime stories and midnight nightmares. Valentina was quiet for a long moment. Why now? Because Phoenix had a nightmare last week about me leaving, and it took 3 hours to calm him down. Because Luna asked why I don't live here when Uncle Dom used to come over all the time, and he wasn't even our dad. Because Stella told me that families are supposed to live together, and when I said some families are different, she looked at me like I was the stupidest person alive. Despite herself, Valentina smiled. Stella has excellent judgment. She does. Cashin's voice was thick with emotion. But more than that, I miss them, Val. I miss reading bedtime stories and hearing about their days and being there when they wake up. I miss being a family. And I know I don't have the right to ask. I know I destroyed that privilege. Yes. He blinked. Yes. Yes, you can move into the guest wing. Yes, we can try co-parenting under the same roof. Yes, we can see if this, she gestured between them, can be rebuilt into something better than it was before. She held up a hand. But rules. We're not married. We're not dating. We're 2 people raising 3 kids and trying not to screw them up. I can live with that. And Cashin, if you hurt them, if you hurt me, if you even think about putting your ego before this family, you'll destroy me in ways I can't even imagine. I know. He smiled, and it was real. I wouldn't expect anything less. Valentina looked at him. This man who'd broken her, who'd spent 9 months learning how to be better, who was building their children a treehouse on a random Tuesday because Phoenix had mentioned it once. We're going to do this differently, she said. No assumptions. No taking each other for granted. No letting other people into our marriage. We're not married. You know what I mean? She poked his chest. We communicate. We go to therapy. We remember that love isn't something you're entitled to. It's something you earn. Every single day. Every single day, he agreed. They sat in comfortable silence, watching birds flutter through the garden. Valentina. Cashin's voice was soft. Thank you. For giving me more chances than I deserved. For letting me be their father. For teaching me what strength really looks like. She leaned her head on his shoulder, a small gesture, but monumental in its trust. Don't make me regret it. I won't. I promise. And for the first time in 3 years, Valentina believed him. The Corleone Gallery's 3rd anniversary celebration was held in the garden of the Grandview estate. Valentina stood on the terrace, watching the party unfold below. The triplets, now 7 and impossibly tall, were showing Constance their latest art projects. Dominic was chatting with Valentina's father about a legal case. Local artists mingled with collectors, students with teachers, the broken with the healing. And Cashin was in the kitchen, arguing with the caterer about whether bruschetta needed basil. It did, according to him and years of watching Antonio cook. He'd moved into the guest wing 2 years ago and never left. They still had separate bedrooms. They still went to therapy every week. They still had fights about parenting and money, and whose turn it was to deal with Phoenix's newfound obsession with snakes. But somewhere along the way, without either of them noticing, they'd become partners again. Not the way they were before. That version of them was dead, buried with the marriage that Cashin had destroyed. This was something new, something harder-earned and more honest. Something built on respect instead of passion, on choice instead of obligation. Mama, Luna appeared at her elbow. Daddy wants to know if you want him to make a speech. Tell Daddy that public speaking is how he got into trouble last time, Valentina said dryly. Luna giggled and ran off. Cashin appeared moments later, mock-offended. I'm an excellent public speaker. You're a disaster with a microphone. Fair point. He leaned against the railing beside her. Beautiful party. Thank you for letting us host it here. It's your house, Val. It's our house. The correction came easily now. Legally mine, emotionally ours. He smiled at that. Then slowly he pulled a small box from his pocket. Valentina's breath caught. Cashin, we talked about this. It's not what you think. He opened the box, revealing a simple silver ring with 3 small stones. Birthstones for each of the triplets. It's a promise ring, not a proposal. A promise that I'm in this for the long haul. That I see you, I respect you, and I choose you. Every day. No matter how long it takes for you to choose me back. Valentina's eyes filled with tears. You're such an idiot. Is that a yes? It's a maybe. A maybe someday when I'm ready to risk my heart again. She took the ring, sliding it onto her right hand. Not the wedding finger. Not yet. But it's a hopeful maybe. Cashin kissed her forehead. Another small gesture they'd built toward over 2 years of slow, careful reconstruction. I can work with hopeful. Below them, Phoenix started a grass fight with his sisters. Constance tried to intervene and ended up with grass in her hair. Antonio laughed so hard he nearly dropped his wine. Dominic caught it, still playing the role of family friend and silent guardian. It was chaotic and imperfect and beautiful. It was family. Valentina. Cashin's voice was soft. I know I say this a lot, but... Then stop saying it. She cut him off gently. Stop apologizing for the past. Just be present for the future. I can do that. Good. She laced her fingers through his. Another small intimacy. Another brick in the foundation they were building. Because our kids are about to destroy that very expensive catering table, and we should probably intervene. They walked down together, hands linked, toward their children and their chaos and their beautifully broken family that was learning, finally, how to be whole. Valentina Corleone had been called Barren. She'd been humiliated, destroyed, abandoned. But she'd risen anyway, built a life anyway, loved anyway. And that was the real ending. Not the man who learned to grovel. Not the family who learned to change. Not even the love that learned to rebuild itself. But the woman who learned that she was enough. With or without him. With or without anyone. She was enough. And everything else was just the beautiful, messy bonus. Thank you for staying with me, and make sure you subscribe to this channel for more stories like this.